Hello and welcome to another video with me, Nerdabetic. I was diabetic and energetic before, in case you're wondering. It's still me. So today is my loop Q&A. I've announced about 2.5 weeks ago and you've asked me loads of questions about looping. And so also 92% of you on Instagram suggested that I answer all of your questions, which I will. Now, in order for this video to have some sort of sense, I've decided to separate your questions into 3 categories. Into basic, advanced and pro. Now, can I just say, separating your questions into those 3 categories, it was sort of like, you know, when you invite family for Christmas or something like that, and you need to like do the seating arrangement, it was sort of like, well, if I put that question as a pro, then that question is really a advanced, well, then that's really a basic, and it basically took me like 2 days to do just that. So I'm gonna put times on the screen now, so if you have never, if you don't even know what looping is, it would probably be a good idea to just watch the basic, and if you're feeling like it, watch the advanced. And if you are using loop or using OpenAPS, which is the more advanced system, but we'll come to that in a minute, you'll probably skip the basic and the advanced and you probably go straight to the pro. And if you want, you can watch the entire thing. I just want to save you as much time as possible. And so that's that. And please give it a like, because you probably won't watch the entire video, so I'm going to say it now. Please give me a like if you like this video and you would like me to do more loop Q&A things. This is my first ever Q&A, so we'll see how that goes. And subscribe if you like diabetes technology. And so let's get on the questions. So let's go with our basic questions. So 2 questions. What actually is looping? And what actually is looping? So I'm going to try to answer every single question in about 20 seconds. Let's go. So looping is an automatic insulin delivery system which adjusts your insulin delivery according to your current blood glucose level, meaning that if your blood glucose level increases, system will automatically give you more insulin. If it drops, it will give you less insulin. The system has been developed by the community. There is no company behind it. Basically, I know I'm way over the 20-second limit, but ignore that. Basically, about 10 years ago, some people in our wonderful community, companies are basically not innovating. Technology is out there. We need to do something to really, get more technology into the healthcare, into the type 1 diabetes management. And they've decided to access some medical devices like older insulin pumps, like some continuous glucose monitors, to connect them all together to create an automatic delivery system. Also, looping is only one of a couple of projects that allow you to combine different medical products like continuous glucose monitors and your insulin pumps into one system. The other one is called OpenAPS. There's also an Android APS. There is a couple of apps that allow you to combine all of those devices to make a closed loop. And the one I'm using is called Loop. And more about how about all the elements that go into my system, into loop system, into system that I'm using. And the 4 key elements are Rileylink, insulin pump, iPhone and a continuous glucose monitor. And I will not go into details on how they work, etc. I'll have a special video which explains how my system works and how those 4 elements work together. So if you would like to see that video, please subscribe, because that video is probably going to be on my YouTube channel relatively soon. Next question. How did your endo feel? I want to loop and they are not for a non-approved company. So first of all, just to clarify, looping and OpenAPS and all of those things, there's no company behind it. It's just people in our wonderful community that have decided to use their own money and use their own time to access medical devices to link them together. And how did my endo feel? He was supportive. I'm quite fortunate because he's actually involved and he's aware of the do-it-yourself community, so I was quite fortunate. But please, of course, I'm not a healthcare professional. Speak to your doctor before making any decisions. Next question, how did you find out about looping? I was actually aware of the do-it-yourself community for a very, very long time, and I've only started looking into details of looping and all that stuff when I got my first insulin pump, which was Medtronic 640G, and yeah, I fell in love instantly. Okay, so the next couple of questions are all about costs. I'm just going to read a couple. What was the cost of the equipment to create looping for pump? How much is the Rileylink, etc.? So let me address that. So if you are currently in the best position to start looping, which means that you have a compatible old Medtronic pump, I'll have a link to a website with all compatible insulin pumps. You can check if your pump is compatible. If you have that, and if you have a compatible continuous glucose monitor, then the only cost to create loop is that device, which is the Rileylink, and that basically connects your iPhone to your pump. And I will have a video that I've talked about before on my YouTube channel soon that explains that entire process. And what is called an Apple developer account, which is £99 a year, and you will need to renew that every year, so basically paying $100 a year. And that account allows you to create an app on your phone and allows you to keep that app on your phone for a year. Next question. I've already answered the cost one. Do you need to keep the white box near both your phone and your pump at all times? And this is, I'm guessing, talking about Rileylink, and yes, you do need to keep that with you. That I would say that this is probably the biggest disadvantage of using Loop for iPhone, is that you need to keep this with you all the time, and I am very worried of losing that. That's why I have this sticker that says it's a medical device. I hope it can focus. I'm new to this camera, so if I ever lose this, people know, and there's my phone number on there, and I need to keep that with me all the time. Now, luckily, I have this pouch, which was custom made just for my Loop gear, so I'm going to put a link to that in the description as well. Next question from the same person. Do you need Mayo if you have Dexcom? No. M transmitter is only if you use the Libre, or you can use a Bluecon as well. Any continuous glucose monitor, Dexcom is obviously fine. And when do you think it will come out for Omnipod? Now, so as I said, looping is not a single device. Basically, you know, a movement, you know, of people, you know, adding more and more devices into this do-it-yourself, you know, adding features to it. And Omnipod is the #1 priority for the Loop community. So, and apparently we are very, very close. I mean, I'm really not involved in high-level, you know, accessing insulin pumps, but apparently Omnipod is relatively close, but I really cannot put a date on it. When it comes out, I'm going to make a video as soon as possible, I promise you. So if you want to follow that, click the subscription. Again, a little bit to do with cost. I watched your first Loop video, oh thank you, and you mentioned purchasing your Rileylink kit from the US. Where did you purchase your kit? I will have a link to that website in the description. Next question, which is a little bit random. Didn't you have the 670G already? That has a built-in hybrid loop. No, I do not have 670G. I have the 640G, which is my backup pump. And 670G has just been approved in the EU. I've done my diabetes technology report for June when I talked about that. You can check it out here or here, I don't know. In my opinion, Loop is still better, and even if I get a chance to get 670G in the future, I just think Loop has some features that 670G doesn't have that I love, like carb estimates. So yeah. Next, next questions, two actually. Do you really trust the Mayo? Do you have the correct blood sugar? Sometimes mine is perfect, but sometimes it's way off. Now my Spike app works really, really well for me, and my actual Spike sometimes is actually closer than to my actual blood glucose level than my Libre reader, so I trust it, and for me it works well. If it didn't, I would never Loop, because I think having a reliable and accurate continuous glucose monitor is an absolute key to having a system that works for you. And second question, power, battery power. Explanation point. You have iPhone, Apple Watch, Rileylink, So yeah, power is a huge issue. I need to carry a 20,000 battery pack with me because my iPhone battery, I need to recharge it twice a day sometimes. And yeah, that's probably the most annoying thing about looping, because you need to have your loop app open all the time because it's making your background insulin decisions every 5 minutes, and also your continuous glucose monitor app, and also your iPhone has constant Bluetooth connection to your Rileylink and to your continuous glucose monitor. That consumes a lot of power, so I need to charge my phone twice, sometimes three times a day, depending on my use. But hey, sometimes yeah, I have to do those things. Next, I believe there is an exercise option on the app. Have you used it? And if so, does it work? Yes, there is a thing called workout target, so you can set a different target. So Loop is instructed to keep me between 5 and 5.3 all the time, but before I go and have a swim workout or something, I do set my workout target. So before that, Loop is instructed to make sure I'm between 6 and 9, I think, before my workout. So that gives me, you know, a bit more security, and it does work, and I quite like that feature. Is the setup with Libre M Spike reliable and stable? Yes, it's very stable, in my experience. Next question, how has your blood glucose control changed since using Loop? It's a very good question. I thought about this, and I've actually looked at my estimates, A1C estimates before looping and after looping, and in terms of my actual control, it has improved it a little bit, but it's not a huge difference. My time and range has increased dramatically. Number of lows lowered dramatically. Number of highs, it's still relatively similar. But the biggest change in control for me is just the time saving. As over the first 6 years of my diabetes, as I've been improving my diabetes, I realised that it was actually eating up a lot of my day. And when I got, a Libre, then a continuous glucose monitor, then an insulin pump, and it all sort of ate a bit of my productivity. And the main reason why I started looping, this is obviously personal, was just allowing a system to control some part of my diabetes so I can have a little bit more time, I mean, these days I have so much free time, I feel like I need to pick up a hobby, because I will be like, well, I have all this free time, I've got like 45 minutes a day extra time, and I'm like, well, I might, do kayaking or something, because I've got all this free time. So, it's better. Next question, will the Medtronic 640G ever be loopable? I do not know. I haven't heard any discussions about that. I know that number one priority for now for the community is Omnipod. Next question, is the Loop app available in all countries? Yes. So the way you need to download app on your MacBook computer and then install it on your iPhone, and you can do that, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you have internet connection. So there's no restrictions. As long as you can get Apple developer's account in your country, then yes, I can't see why there will be an issue. So I've got last two basic questions, and they're basic, but they are difficult. So the first one is, where is a good source to find a 2.4 version of lower of the Medtronic loopable pump? I have an older pump, but they are 2.5% higher, and one from Tilly. How much do the loop suitable pumps usually cost to buy? And that's a very good question. The biggest problem with looping for loads of individuals is actually finding a loopable pump, which is an old Medtronic pump, I don't really know what the best solution is. I mean, I can tell you how I got my pump. I got my pump from my diabetes friend. She gave me two old pumps, and they both are compatible. So speak to your friends. Maybe if your endocrinologist is likes the idea, maybe speak to them. They are likely to have some older Medtronic pumps in their clinic, maybe to display purposes. I don't know, maybe try, if I were you, I definitely wouldn't buy it online, and I wouldn't buy it on eBay. That's just my personal thing, because you don't really know where that who used that pump and what's history of that pump. So I would definitely have it from a trusted source like your friend, or maybe something like that. But like I said, it is the hardest part about looping, is finding a loopable pump. And in terms of how much they cost, I really don't know. It really depends on the country. I've seen some people post on Facebook groups, you know, prices from $300 to $700, and I really don't know. You really need to do that research yourself, because every single country has a different pricing system. So now let's move on to advanced questions. And the first advanced question is, how often do you ignore what loop suggests? And so basically, when you're on a closed loop, your loop app automatically makes decisions about your background insulin, about your basal insulin, every 5 minutes. But when you're on open loop, app suggests what's the best basal rate for you based on loads of information. Based on your carbohydrates information, based on your current blood glucose level, based on your blood glucose prediction, based on your history of blood glucose, and like loads of things. And I'm on closed loop pretty much full time, because my loop works very, very well. I feel like all my carbohydrate ratios and stuff like that is relatively good. The only times where I turn it off is when my blood glucose is rising from 8, 9 area, and it's slowly rising up. If it's rising very quickly, you know, from 6 to 7s to 8s quite dramatically, then Loops deals with that very, very well in my experience. But when I'm 8 or 9 and it slowly increases, then Loop doesn't correct me to a level that I think is reasonable. It just plays it very, very safe. And when I see that I'm slowly increasing, then I turn closed loop off. I do a manual correction, and I leave it turned off for about 45 minutes, and then I turn the closed loop back on. And I would say that that happens probably once every 3 days, once every 4 days. But and in terms of my actual injections, in terms of my boluses, my insulin to carbohydrate ratio is really, really good, so I always go with Loop Suggests because I think it's reasonable. And so next question. By the way, if you've seen me sweat in this video, heat wave in the UK is ridiculous. Like, it's so hot. It's like the hottest summer in like, what, 20 years, something like that. Maybe not that. And where we've built my like small YouTube space where I record my videos, like, there is like a roof right here, and the temperature in here is like 30 degrees, and I'm not even joking. I've got 2 MedAngel alerts that my insulin is too hot, so you know it's bad. Anyway, let's get on with the video. Great idea, Camille. Interested to know more about steps involved in building the app, setting up on Mac, etc. Basically, the amount of admin tech involved to get started. And so, by the way, you do need a Mac computer. You cannot use Windows to set this version of Loop, my iPhone Loop, up. So if you don't have a Mac computer, you would need to ask a friend or go to the library where they're available or something like that to build it. You only need to do it once a year, so it's not a big deal. And in my opinion, in that system that I'm using, in Loop, there's like almost no tech, no admin involved. Like, you really do not, like, if you have no IT experience, no coding experience, you can really do Loop. If you do decide to go and use something like OpenAPS and Android APS, I mean, those instructions are just next level. That's one of the reasons why I'm using Loop, because LoopDocs website is so fantastic. Instructions on that website are so clear, you can really understand everything, and they are just so wonderful. If you really want to do it, you can really do it, and I guarantee that. Next question from her is also, how do you feel it's improved, eased burden, a reduced burden of your day-to-day management? Like I said, it gave me a lot of free time, and also bolusing from your watch. I know it sounds really, really cool, but it's actually a huge time saver. Like, you just, it's difficult to explain how cool and how much time it saves you to just bolus, do an injection from your watch. You really need to try it to understand how amazing that is. And are you happy to continue looping, or will you look at other options like AAPS, Open APS? I am very happy with looping, and I am not planning to switch to a Open APS anytime soon. Next question, did you face any communication issues from time to time between different components? No, not really. I have had a couple of instances where my Spike app wouldn't send information to my Loop app, and then I would need to just close both and reopen them, but that only happened like maybe 4 times in total. How reliable was the solution? In my opinion, very reliable. Tell us stories or cases where you faced with negative experiences. I have had one situation where I was at a like family event, and there was a like a band, music band, and they were using like microphones and like things with radio frequencies, and for some reason my Rileylink was working in like the same radio frequency levels as their musical instruments. And so like my loop wasn't working, and like I think they had some issues because music would stop a lot, and then they've changed something because I told them what I was doing, and they were like, wait, so you're using radio waves to do this? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I showed them like the settings, and like it tells you like the radio frequencies, and they were like, oh, we're using the same frequencies for our microphones. And I was like, okay then. So they've had to change like the microphone settings or something like that. But that only happened once, and I've actually asked about this on like Facebook group, and they were like, yeah, that's really, really weird. So maybe they were using like very strange equipment. But that's the only story I can think of. I've been flying with it and it has been fine. Next question, from your last month experience, did you have to constantly check something there, make sure loop is working fine? Yeah, so I have the loop today widget on my lock screen, so every single time I check my time, automatically just like swipe my to go to the today widget screen, and loop is at the top, and I check it a lot to make sure it's green, to make sure everything is working correctly, and if it's orange or red, then I obviously need to intervene and like make sure connection is fine and stuff like that. Next question, Dana, Diabetic RS is available in the UK. This won't need an extra device like Rileylink. Are you going to get Dana pump? Greetings from the Netherlands. So greetings from the UK. And so yes, it is available in the UK, in case you don't know this. Fun fact, I actually didn't know that this pump was available on the NHS when I was picking my pump. Well, I'm not due to a pump upgrade for another like 3.5 years, so maybe I will definitely consider when I'm due for an upgrade. If you want to use Dana pump, Marvin mentioned, there is no need to get a Rileylink. Your pump will communicate directly with Open APS or Android APS, and you will have, you know, all of the automatic features just built in. Next question, is it possible to use closed loop with old 722 Medtronic pump, or only open loop? My pump should arrive tomorrow. Great news. Yes, and you can use both. Although, please make sure on the website your pump is actually compatible. And I'm saying that because I've seen some people message me saying, oh, you said you got the Medtronic 722 pump, so I will get one and I'm going to be looping as well. Like I said, please check with the website, because the same pump can have multiple software updates, and if your software, if you have the newest software, you might not be able to do it on that pump. So the fact that you have 722 doesn't automatically mean you can loop. So double check the actual software update version. And so the last advanced question is it safe? I mean, you're taking technology and doing your own thing with it, which is a great question that I will answer in detail in another video. I'm doing this small documentary about cybersecurity of medical devices, and I've been working on it for like 6 months already, but it's just taken, the research for that video is taking like ridiculous amounts of time. So in terms of your insulin pump, using it for looping doesn't expose it to any additional hacking or wireless hack risk. It is just as secure as using your pump for your normal day-to-day management. In terms of your algorithm, it is something that you do need to ask yourself, a moral question. Would I want a computer to make insulin decisions on my behalf? And if yes, would I trust it? And if you don't trust it and you still want to do it, it is a relationship that you need to build with an app. And you need to be confident with the decisions the app is making, and then you can, do the closed loop. But in my opinion, it is safe, but safety is something so personal, you need to make your own decision. And so it's time for my pro questions. If you're watching this section of the video, you're either really interested in looping, or you are using loop or open APS, or you're just watching the entire video because you enjoy the video. So, welcome everyone. So, have you ever used auto-tune to fine-tune your basal rates? Just heard about this recently. Sounds very good, but a bit complicated. So yes, I have just recently used auto-tune for the first time. If you don't know what auto-tune is, it's basically a digital, virtual endocrinologist. It takes all of your data from, like, carb ratios, insulin data, basal rates, blood glucose level, and it does this weird calculation thing with it, and it gives you the best basal rates for you, the best insulin sensitivity for you, the best carb ratio for each time, and stuff like this. And I have used it, and my results were quite surprising, and I was a bit naughty, and I have implemented majority of what is suggested to me, and my control has been incredible after implementing that. Next pro question. I would love to know if you've made any modifications to your loop code to personalize it to you. I haven't personalized it myself, but I do have a custom loop code, loop that links it directly with Spike. So I'm looping totally offline. So I don't need any internet connection to get my Night Scout or Dexcom shared data, because it takes it locally from Spike app. So that's the only code personalization that I've done, and I am currently considering changing the Apple Watch setting from recommending me 70% of my basal to recommending me 100, because it's just quite time consuming, because I need to scroll it up to 100, and so, but I don't have time to redo the whole thing, but I'm going to probably do it at some point. Also, I'm loving how in this part of the video I'm talking such a technical language to what I've been talking about before. It's just so different, and like, anyway, I would love to constant access to a Mac. Yes, you do need constant, well, not really, I always do. I recently went on a 2-week holiday, and I only had my iPad with me, and I didn't take my MacBook computer, and as a security thing, if something goes, so I decided to take my 640G as a backup pump in case my loop app, is destroyed or something happens to it. But when I have I do feel safe, because if something, happens to your loop app, then you would need a Mac to reinstall it and rebuild it. So I do recommend, if you have a Mac, or make sure, if your friend has a Mac, make sure you message them every so often, like, hey, what are you doing, how are you, to make sure they like you, so you can always pop into their house and be like, hey, I need to use your Mac for 2 hours. And so last question, how we worked on a plane. On the actual plane, it worked fantastic. I've flown on that holiday, so that's 2 flights, and recently I've taken on the 4 flights, so I've had 6 flights in total with loop, and I've only been looping for 2 months, and it worked fantastically. I've had issues at security once, and it was on my recent trip to Vienna. And I have been recording, vlogging that trip, but haven't even looked at the footage yet, so I might upload a video. I will definitely upload that section with my conflict at security, but I might upload the entire vlog, I will see. Next pro question, why did you choose loop instead of open APS? Auto tune looks like a benefit for open APS. So a couple of reasons. First reason is I'm an Apple person, and I am deep into the Apple ecosystem with a watch, iPhone, iPad, etc. And I know some people choose to just get a special Android phone, which I think that's just no, I didn't want to do that. Second reason is I really like the Loop app on the iPhone. I think in terms of user interface, in terms of the layout, in terms of how everything is positioned, I think it just makes a lot, like, it's logical to me, and I can clearly see what is happening. When I looked at the OpenAPS screenshot, I didn't have a clue what was happening on there. If you're using OpenAPS, please don't hate me for saying that. Also, one huge decision factor for me was the fact that I was a lot more confident with LoopDoc's website and with the instructions provided on that website. When I looked on OpenAPS website, goodness, I mean, I'm not an expert, but chapeau to every single person that uses OpenAPS, because I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it. And so I wasn't confident in me installing OpenAPS correctly, and I was a lot more confident in me installing Loop, because I just think the instructions were so much better. The process is probably very similar, it's just the way that the instructions are delivered on LoopDocs is billion times better. Also, another reason I'm not really missing out on auto-tune, because you can actually do auto-tune online, and you can do it through Terminal on Mac, which I've done. And I know that this is built into OpenAPS, but I'm still not missing out on that feature. So, yeah. Next question from Eric, another looper. Make sure you follow him as well. Have you made adjustments to fine-tune Loop? Also, I think loopers can use auto-tune. Yes, like I said before, I have. And in terms of adjustments, I have used the Spike version so we can work offline. And so I'm about to read the last pro question. Now, before I do, can I just say that I was so impressed with that question, and I'm not going to say it's my favourite question, because I don't want to do that, but what I am going to say is that I am out of all of the questions, this is the one that I will probably remember forever, because I just love that question. And I love the result of that question. Listen. How could people with visual disabilities and lost vision benefit from this loop system? Could they navigate by sound from phone app, let's say, so they don't need to do stuff with an actual pump itself? And so I looked at that question and I thought, well, I don't actually know the answer to that question, which was normal. I didn't know answers to a couple of them, so I started researching. I spoke to a couple of people who use Loop, and they didn't know, and no one knew really. And I couldn't find a person that was using it that had some sort of visual condition, and so I decided to test it myself. And so I've turned on I think it's called voiceover feature on the iPhone, which is basically a thing that will read whatever it's under your finger when you scroll like that. And so I blindfolded myself, and I asked my mum to sit next to me, and I have explained to her what I was doing. I was like, make sure I'm not doing anything stupid. I wouldn't be able to bowl this because you do need your Touch ID to authenticate, but I still wanted to have that. And I was blown away how incredibly it worked. I'm going to put a couple of clips here now.
Loop ran 3 minutes ago. Closed loop. Glucose. 6.3 at 21:55. Flat. Launches CGM app. But bolus amount. Text field. Is editing. 0.0. Character mode. Insertion point at start. Recommended bolus 0.025 units.
And so as you can see and as you can hear, I was able to see the reservoir level, check my predicted blood glucose level, do all of those things. And I was just so blown away how, like, this thing that, like, couple of people that know IT and, you know, they want to change diabetes technology, how like they thought of something like that. You know, I don't know if it was intentional or if it, but it just works so well. So in my opinion, it is sensational. And then I sort of thought, you know, has the marketplace ever thought about people with visual disabilities? And the answer is probably no, because I looked at my insulin pump, I looked at 722, I looked at Medtronic's 640G, I looked at the Omnipod, and I sort of thought, well, if I was blind, I would never be able to use that insulin pump, because no one has even thought about it. And here I am, using a system that was created by the community that does exactly that, and I just thought, it sums up this entire video perfectly. So I just hope that you see why people have done this, and if I've used we in that sentence, I obviously meant them, the people who have built this up. I'm just, you know, a user. And so that's my Q&A. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't offend OpenAPS users. I still love your system, and it has a lot of wonderful features that I would love to have, but design wins in my case. So, hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I just feel so empowered after that question. Yeah, so thanks so much. Give it a like if you like this video, and let me know in the comments what you think. See you guys. See you next one.